Hello and welcome to Unlearning, Unbothered with Joy, me. I am your host, Joi Divine, and today I have the amazing opportunity bestowed upon me by the woman you see here to
It's
interview
me.
the woman you see here. So we're just going to get into it. This series, we are centering the voices of Black fat femmes, and we're trying to honor our narrative as Black fat femmes and recognize that we have a voice, and it's not just to be the token fat friend and be the butt of all the jokes.
Yeah.
We are full human beings, dynamic people, and goddamn it, we have something to say. So this season that we're entering into, as we all know, Canadians have already been through it, but we're heading into the Thanksgiving season within the next month or so. So of course we're going to be talking a lot about food. We're going to be thinking a lot about food, buying a lot of food, preparing a lot of food. And so for some of us who are in the chunk, we tend to feel a little weird around this time of year.
Yeah.
Even as adults, those memories still crop up. Those feelings still creep back in. So we're just going to talk about that and what it was like dealing with a holiday that was literally about hedonism, dare I say, but not being allowed to really take part in that without feeling shame.
Yeah.
Even though
There's
everybody
a lot of
was
shame.
being gluttonous and greedy, but
never me. It was always side eyes. It was always side eyes with me when I wanted another plate, but nobody else had that. Nobody else had that problem. No one else.
Exactly. How dare you get a second plate on a holiday?
Right. On a holiday where everybody's getting seconds and thirds and fourths, but me as a fat person, I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to.
It's like the idea is that I guess they think we live in excess every day just because we look the way we look.
Yeah.
So Thanksgiving apparently is just a Tuesday to us.
Right.
So.
Right. I'm so happy we're doing this. Yes, this is so important to me. So yeah, let me know whatever you have to ask me.
Yes, well, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for creating this space.
Of course.
This is not something that you see very often. So
no.
Hats off to you. Yes. So we kind of already got into it a little bit just in the intro, but if you want to speak a little bit more on it, what was it like growing up being a fat Black femme, and what are the things that you internalized about yourself?
In my family, in my immediate family, I was the only fat person. So even though, as a child, I was raised by, parents who were responsible for teaching me things about food, teaching me values about exercise, teaching me values about health. When they failed at that, I was the one who was punished. And so from a very young age, when my body was still forming, still coming into itself, and I was still growing and learning about eating habits and things like that, I started hearing the word diet thrown around a lot. I started getting punished because we had to shop in the junior section for my clothes because I couldn't fit any of the clothes in the kids section. And those clothes made me look older because I developed sooner than a lot of the other girls did because I was fat. And so then I started getting sexualized at a very young age as a young fat Black woman. And so in my family, there was always these looks of worry. And even from the point of view of my doctors, they were so incredibly negative, and they were trying to be so jarring about putting the onus on me, who was the child who doesn't have any money, who doesn't pay any bills, who doesn't grocery shop or cook for myself. The onus was on me to then abstain from what was being given to me to nourish my body. And then also, and also just in that same time frame, in that same vein, I'm supposed to figure out how to exercise. I'm 10. That shouldn't be my focus.
That's very heavy, and like it sounds like a domino effect, honestly.
Yeah, it really did start a
like,
domino effect in my life, you know, because then I started internalizing all these things about food, and food really became the enemy. My entire childhood, food was the enemy, you know? And so it didn't matter if I was hungry, if I was starving, eating was like punishment for me.
Did you feel like surveilled too? Because like,
oh my
for
God.
me, I swear to God, like every night when I would go to like, fix my own plate at the dinner table, my
eyes
mom
on
and
how
my dad
much,
were like,
how much are you putting on that plate? What about the 3 other kids here? I have 3 little brothers. Are you worrying about how much they're putting on their plates? No. And the thing is even before I started making my own plate, my mom is making the plate for me, and she's giving me the most food of anyone at the table. So that's a habit that I picked up. And then when I picked it up, all of a sudden I'm in trouble for having picked it up. That doesn't make any sense.
And it's like, I'm sure you've heard of like how Black girls are like adultified, or Black children, period, adultified children. And I'm like, it sounds like being fat like just adds like that adultification.
Man, it really did. Like, I got the birds and the bees. What age did you get the birds and the bees talk? Because I got it when I was 10.
Well, never, because I grew up in a very Christian household.
Oh, okay, so okay.
It was kind of just like, we'll just pretend, that we don't have to talk about it, because she already knows that she's not supposed to be doing it anyway. So
exactly,
what's the point of the conversation?
Yeah. I got it when I was 10 because I had boobs before everybody at my age had boobs. So one day we were in the mall, my grandmother and I, shopping for back to school clothes. And this adult man, and I mean, I have boobs, but I look like a 10-year-old. Like I look like a child. And this adult man is like staring at me, and my grandma has to like block him. So when we got to the car, she was like, "You need to be careful, da-da-da, this and that." And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What did I do? I was just shopping for clothes. What about the adult man who is staring at a 10-year-old child? Where's his punishment?
Yeah. It basically ages you like rapidly too.
Yes.
Like you said, the clothes you had to wear weren't for your average 10-year-old.
No.
Then your body was developing faster than most 10-year-olds.
Yep.
And like, even if you didn't have, the breasts, like you were still bigger than most kids your age. So people automatically associate, size with age. So it's just like it kind of steals your youth from me.
It stole so much of my youth. It stole so much of my youth. And none of it was with my permission,
Not at all. And because like, you weren't going out there trying to be like, hey, look at my tits. Like, no. You were just like, I didn't ask for these. Why are they here?
Exactly.
I don't even know what I need these for.
Yeah.
I just want to play brats.
Exactly that.
So what were family gatherings like, especially the ones that were centered around eating? So of course, like the holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, what have you.
Well, we're Black, so we know anytime the family's gathering, what the menu is going to be. We know exactly what the menu is going to be anytime we gathering. So all of the gatherings, I feel like in Black families are always centered around food for the most part. And for me, there were always eyes on me, and even from my like cousins who were my age, they would be like, "Why are you still hungry?" Well, because I don't feel full. Like, why
I
is that
hate
a
that fucking
problem?
question.
Yeah, why are
Like,
you still hungry? What is
why are
that?
you still hungry?
What does that mean? Why am I still hungry? Why is that an issue that I'm still hungry and I want to eat more when no one is saying this? And my brother, my youngest brother, he's not big into food, but he'll eat cakes and cookies and brownies and pies like nobody's business. But it doesn't show on him. If I ate the way that he eats, everyone would be like sitting me down and have a talk. I remember once at Thanksgiving at my grandma's house, I went back for like a second plate, and my dad was like, Mariah, come on. And then my grandma like stepped in and like, no, 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 let her eat. And I'm like, why is this a conversation that we have to have? Everyone else is eating seconds and thirds. I can't have another plate of food. So family gatherings stress me out because so much of the way that people treated me was like I was a prisoner and I was constantly being watched, in one wrong move and they were going to embarrass me for being hungry.
Yeah. And like, just from a logical standpoint, we make so much food.
Exactly.
So much food. So
yes.
Who's gonna eat all of it? A lot of it, even if people have seconds, thirds, fourths, it's still a lot goes to waste.
Yeah.
So why is it a big deal?
And then on top of
I'm
that,
doing you a favor.
Exactly. I'm doing what you asked, was to come here and eat. And then on top of that, you got plates to take home. You bring Tupperware to take shit home. Like, people come prepared to eat. But the way that I was raised, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, is that that's what we're here to do. My mom was like, I'm not cooking, so you better eat while you here. And the way that I was taught to eat is to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat until I feel like I can't move. Now, do I advocate for that today as Mariah, the 24-year-old who's been through therapy and come to terms with an eating disorder? No, I don't advocate for that. But did I know better? No. I didn't know any better.
And not only that, it was just like, not just eating until you're incapacitated, but like, you can't leave anything on your plate because wasting food is bad.
Yes.
Like, talking about, people on Twitter, it's a hellscape, as we both know.
Yeah.
Like, people are already aspiring to beat their children that they don't even have.
Exactly.
And not only that, but like, do the things that their parents did to them, which was like, if you didn't want to eat this, disgusting meal that your mother made, and you protest at the dinner table, they was gonna make you sit there until you finished.
Yeah.
And
once I had to sit once at an aunt's house, she fed me this disgusting like liverwurst and cabbage. I was not eating that shit. Not on my best day would I eat that shit. She said, you're gonna sit there until you finish eating it. And she was like so vicious and mean about it. And so I threw up. I threw up because she was forcing me to eat that food. And that's child abuse.
Yeah.
And she forced me to eat that shit, and I did not want to eat it. And then they got mad because I threw up when I told them that I was having a bad reaction to the liverwurst and cabbage.
We clearly, as a society, don't believe that children can be the author of their own experience.
Exactly.
They're just all faking it until something drastic happens, like you throwing up. Yeah. And then even if you throw up, oh, you're just being dramatic.
Yeah, I got in trouble for throwing up.
With that, like, what kind of self-talk did you engage in? And like, kind of in the same vein, like, what did you internalize about yourself? And I want to add to that, like, do you still see that showing up today? Like, the thing that you've internalized?
So here's the thing. I'll answer the last part first. I still see it showing up from time to time, but I recognize it when it does. And now that I can recognize that kind of self-talk, and I'm a person who's been through therapy, who is actively in therapy, who is actively trying to unlearn all that negativity. I have methods and ways to get myself out of that self-talk and nurture that inner child that still feels afraid and unsafe. But the kind of self-talk that I used to engage in is like, you're ugly, you're fat, no one wants you, you shouldn't be hungry, you should starve yourself. I used to think, like, I saw this movie once, and trigger warning because this is a little violent, but I saw this movie once where this girl, who wasn't that fat, if you ask me, but it was the 2000s, so anything over
It
like
was illegal to be fat.
it was quite illegal to be fat.
Literally.
She was in the she was in the bathroom, like, stabbing her thighs because they were so fat, and I was sitting there thinking, like, oh my God, what if I did that? And then they took me to the hospital and they just had to remove it. And I was like 11 or 12 when I was talking that way to myself. I remember just always pulling and tugging at my body and being so angry at the way that I looked, at the clothes that I wore. I used to, like, cry myself to sleep at night. You know, the kind of self-talk that I used to engage in, it spiraled into, like, this very deep depressive state that for so long was like stasis. Like, that's just where I lived. And I didn't even realize that I was there. There were so many things that I missed out on in my youth because I was afraid. I was afraid of being made fun of. I was afraid of loving myself. I was afraid of, taking a step out of that depression or lifting that fog to see who the person was underneath. And when I finally did, it made me so angry at everyone who had been so instrumental in helping me internalize all of that shit. And I've been able to forgive them. I've been able to forgive them only because I know who I am now. And I know the person that I am now would never, like, say that, would never allow that. I'm not going to carry that on. Like, that shit dies right here with me. This is where the buck stops. And I'm not carrying that into the other generations.
Yeah. I definitely see that. Like, it kind of, for me, I was kind of just like, in the words of Beyond Love, I was neck down dead. Like, I just relied on my intellect, I feel, because I'm like, well, if I'm smart, if I'm, like, doing all of these things that people praise, then they're not going to care.
I agree. That's, like, the kind of thing that we have to do as fat Black women. Like, I coped. I was smart, but I wasn't as smart as I was funny. And I knew that I could get in good with everybody by being funny and being charming and being witty and having this glowing personality. And then when I got older and I started wanting to, we always feel like we have to dress up. Otherwise, people are going to liken us or are going to try and take away our femininity from us. We always feel like we have to wear very tight clothing to hug our figures. Otherwise, people are going to call us names. And that is what I'm trying to move away from. But that's hard.
Yeah. And, like, we kind of, like, our negative self-talk isn't even really our own voice.
Exactly.
It's our parents' voice.
Our parents' voice, our grandparents' voice, the neighborhood kids' voices, the kids at school's voices, but never us.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that until somebody told me. I didn't know being fat was wrong until everyone told me it was.
So it's kind of just like trying to find your own voice in the midst of all of that chaos in your mind. Like, honestly, for me, it's like like my 20s has been a second adolescence. It hasn't really been like, I'm grown, I can do all this stuff. Like, I'm still just trying to figure out myself and what I like.
Yeah.
Outside of, the youth that being fat stole from me.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we want to pivot towards something a little happier.
Yes.
So how did you build or find an accepting community for yourself as a fat Black femme? And what has that done for you mentally and physically?
For me, the first step was realizing how much of a problem that I had taken on from everybody else and letting go of that burden and living for me. So I used to allow a lot of shit. Like when you're the fat friend in the group, you take a lot of shit, you know? You take being the one in the pictures who doesn't look great, and then everybody's still posting them on the internet, not caring what you look like. You take being, invited on to like parties and things like that, but nobody being interested in you, and your friends, like, allowing people to speak negatively about you and then be like, ha ha ha, stop. She's such a nice person. And so what it took was for me to cut out that negativity. I had to cut off that cancer. And I had to cut that off and say, I love myself. I love the way I look. I'm going to start figuring out who I am and what I want and what I like, and building healthy habits and setting boundaries. That is how I found a community that was accepting, that was loving. When I set boundaries about what's appropriate for you to do to me and to behave, how to behave around me, and what isn't. And once I set boundaries, I was able to attract the kind of people who were genuine, who loved me genuinely. And I did have to teach, my family, because that's a little different, I did have to teach them about how to stop talking about me in a way that was revolving around my weight, or revolving around my food, or revolving around the food that I eat. And I'm actively trying to teach them that because I want them to do better. But for me, finding a community was everything. It was what I needed. It was what I needed to, sometimes, I hate the notion that we don't need people. We're social creatures by nature. I want an accepting community who's going to love me, who's going to hype me up, who's going to support me. And I found that by finding people who were genuine and who understood boundaries and who understood like what is negative and what is positive in the way that you talk about people who are fat, and how do we engage with people who are fat and Black? How do you respect fat Black women, and cutting out the people who want to fetishize me?
That too.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole nother
ain't it? We ain't got no time for all that one. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, how do you approach the holidays as who you are now? And do you have any advice for anyone that's in a similar body as us, but who doesn't quite have that confidence for the impending holidays?
What I like to say is, if you aren't comfortable setting boundaries, you have to have this internal monologue about what is their issue really. Is it with you or is it with themselves? Do not let people project their insecurities onto you. You eat what you want. You eat as much as you want. You make sure you're taking care of you and you're listening to your body, not to anybody else's words. Don't worry about them stairs in the back of your head, baby, because let them be hungry over there and skinny. And you be fat and full. You be fat and full. And I know we say, like, let that shit go off you like Teflon. No. If you do feel appropriate in addressing people's inappropriate comments, you say no. And when people push back against your boundaries, that shouldn't even be a red flag. That's like a signal saying, warning, warning, warning. Cut it off. Cut it off.
Yeah. Don't. And like those that trend that was going around on Twitter. Like petty things to say, Thanksgiving clapbacks.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're not going to get a man looking like that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, just because you decided to let that stop your life.
Exactly.
It's not me.
Exactly.
That I'm going to just not live because you decided being fat was a death sentence.
Exactly. And it should not be don't let it be a social death sentence. Food is social. And we forget that.
And cultural.
Food is social. Food is cultural. We don't have to, be afraid to engage in it. We don't have to eat like chicken and rice and bland veggies and that be a meal because it's protein. That's not all food is about. So if you want to eat because it tastes good and it makes you feel good, that's enough. You don't have to justify anything else.
Nothing else. Well, on that note, I think that sums it up.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mariah, for those words of wisdom.
Yes.
You're a fire. You always have.
Thank you. Thank you.
A way
As
with
are
a
you.
way with
As are
words.
you. As are you. Your soft-spoken voice is so soothing, and I feel like it's exactly what we need for this time of year. This is exactly what the fat Black women need, is to hear you whisper in their ear and say, "It's okay, baby. You go get that second plate.
Bitch.
Get another plate, bitch. Say it again. Say it again.
You get another plate, baby.
Yes.
You earned it.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and your words of advice. And hopefully you guys learned a thing or two. You're going to take a thing or two with you into Thanksgiving, New Year's, next Easter, whatever. Take it with you for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And just continue to love on yourself as you are. Be sure to check out the full interview on our Textured Air YouTube channel and IGTV. Don't forget to follow us at Textured Air on Instagram and Twitter and pretty much any place you can follow someone, I guess, right? And I guess, if you want to follow me.
Yes, you should.
It's at Joi Divine. That's Joy with an I. All right.
Bye.
I'm your lovely host. This has been Unlearning and Unbothered. You all have a wonderful rest of your day when you watch this.
Yay.
Peace.